If REO's affordable pickup is nothing more than an interesting idea on the internet, then why is some of the strongest support coming from states where the truck is needed the most? REO has now collected over 28,000 reservations for the runabout, but the total number of reservations isn't the most interesting part about the company's new data. What really caught my attention is where the reservations holders actually live. Looking only at the total number of reservations, the results are fairly predictable. Texas is number one with over 1,800 map reservations. California is second, followed by Florida, Pennsylvania, and New York. Those are all the heavily populated states, so naturally they produce a large amount of reservations. But once REO adjusts those figures for the populations, the map changes drastically. Looking at the total number of reservations, the results are fairly predictable. Texas is number one with over 1,800 mapped reservations. California is second, followed by Florida, Pennsylvania, and New York. Those are all heavily populated states, so naturally they produce a large amount of reservations. But once REO adjusts those figures for populations, the map changes dramatically. Montana ranks first with 10.1 reservations for every 100,000 residents. Alaska is almost perfectly tied with 10 reservations per 100,000. Idaho comes in third, followed by Utah and New Hampshire. Wyoming and North Dakota are tied at 6.3 reservations per 100,000 residents. Tennessee, Colorado, and South Dakota complete the top 10. So what do these states have in common? They aren't dominated by mass urban centers. Many of them have large rural populations, long driving distances, difficult winters, farms, ranches, mountains, and industries where owning a truck can be extremely useful. In places like these, a pickup isn't necessarily something you buy because you want the appearance of owning a truck. People use them to haul feed, pull trailers, carry tools, drive through bad weather, and reach places where a regular car might struggle. These are people who understand what makes a truck useful, and apparently quite a few of them understand what REO is trying to build. That matters because REO isn't advertising the runabout as a luxury vehicle. It isn't promising a giant touchscreen or a tailgate that performs 6 different tricks. REO is promising a small, gasoline-powered, body-on-frame truck with 4-wheel drive, mechanical controls, and advertised price of $21,500. On paper, that sounds much closer to the type of truck rural buyers used to be able to buy. A basic, affordable, easy to use, and capable of doing work. And that type of truck is almost completely disappeared from the American market. Today, even trucks that manufacturers describe as midsize have become fairly large, complicated, and expensive. Full-size trucks can easily cost as much as a luxury car or considerably more. The modern pickup market has become focused on two extremes. You either have an expensive full-size truck or a smaller life-size vehicle that may not offer the traditional construction or capability that some truck buyers want. There isn't much available for someone who simply wants a basic, affordable, four-wheel drive pickup. And the people who are most affected by that may be the people who actually need the trucks the most. If you live in a major city and only occasionally need to carry something large, you probably have alternatives. You might be able to rent a truck, borrow one, or simply have something delivered. If you live on a farm, maintain a large property, work in a trade, or regularly travel through difficult terrain or weather, owning a capable pickup is not optional. Those buyers still need trucks. They're just being asked to pay considerably more for them. That's why the reservations numbers are so interesting. REO appears to be receiving some of the strongest support per capita from people living in parts of the country where the basic idea of a truck still makes the most sense. This doesn't necessarily prove that the reservation holder is a farmer, rancher, or tradesman. We don't know the occupation of each person on the map or exactly why they reserved one. But the geographic pattern is difficult to ignore. Small, rural, and truck-dependent states are outperforming much larger states after adjusted for population. To me, this is early evidence that REO's concept is connecting with the right audience. The company isn't only attracting people who like the idea of a cheap truck, it appears to be attracting people in places where a simple truck could provide real value. And that's a real important distinction. A proof of concept doesn't mean REO has proven it can manufacture this truck. The company still has enormous challenges ahead. It must finalize design, secure its engine and transmission, establish suppliers, complete safety and emissions testing, build a manufacturing operation capable of producing these vehicles at the promised price. The reservation map doesn't solve all of these problems, but it does help answer one of the most important questions. Does anyone actually want this? And based upon the geographic data, the answer appears to be yes. Not only do people want it, the idea seems to be performing especially well in parts of the country where trucks are needed the most. There's some important limitations about this data. The geographic map was last updated on July 24th and contains approximately 15,000 reservations. So it doesn't include every reservation REO has received. These are $25 refundable deposits. They aren't completed vehicle orders, and there's no guarantee that every reservation will actually be built. Putting down $25 is much easier than spending $21,500 or more on a finished vehicle. So we shouldn't treat these numbers as sales. But even a refundable reservation requires someone to take action. More than 28,000 people have now decided that REO's idea is interesting enough to put down money on it and hold that place in line. And the people responding most strongly per capita aren't only in the country's largest population centers. They're in Montana, Alaska, they're in Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, they're in truck country. I think that tells us something important about what happened to the American pickup. Trucks were originally built to be affordable, practical transportation for people who actually needed and get stuff done. Over time, they became larger, more luxurious, and more complicated, and even more expensive. Now, there's nothing wrong with someone who wants a comfortable or luxurious truck, but the industry seems to have forgotten about the buyer who is dependent upon it. REO is betting that those buyers are still out there, and this reservation map suggests that they still are. The states that arguably understand the value of a truck better than anyone else are showing some of the strongest interest in the runabout. That doesn't guarantee that REO will succeed. The company still has to prove that it can deliver the truck that it has promised. But if REO can actually build a capable four-wheel drive pickup for somewhere close to $21,500, it may have found the audience that the rest of the truck industry has spent years ignoring. Maybe the question isn't whether Americans still want a small, basic pickup. Maybe the reservation map has already answered that. The real question is whether REO can be the company that finally gives us one. Would you find an affordable REO Runabout useful where you live? If you reserved one, what state are you from? And what do you plan on using the truck for? Let me know down in the comments, and subscribe to Sam Talks REO for more news and analytics as we get closer to the official design reveal.